Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we look at what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now, the BRICS group over the past decade have been building a transportation network that spans the globe, from the north-south transportation corridor which links Russia, Iran and India, to the northern sea route across the Arctic, that links Asia with Europe, and a major part of that is the China's Belt and Road Initiative across Central Asia to Europe. Now, one of the components is the railway network that aims to span the globe, connecting the different cities of the various continents and linking the ocean ports worldwide. Now, in this video, I'm going to look at China's ambitious plans for developing global transport infrastructure, with some of the projects that I've mentioned already underway. It's also important to consider the implications of Russia's interests, particularly in the context of the global confrontation that's currently taking place between Beijing and Washington. Now, China's considering participating in the construction of a new railway route linking the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans in South America, according to the Bolivian president, Luis Arce. Now, he's expressed his interest in the potential construction of this interoceanic train line connecting the Pacific Atlantic Ocean, starting from the Peruvian megaport that the Chinese have just built and traversing the territories of the BRICS partner countries, Brazil and Bolivia. Now, this information was conveyed by Arce via his Telegram channel detailing the outcomes of his recent meetings with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, before I continue, I'd like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and my website, scobricksinsight.com. And to do that, all you have to do is click on the thanks button at the bottom of the screen, and that way you can make a small donation, and that will help me out greatly, and I would appreciate all of you, and you'll all get a personal thanks if you do. And I'm also thanking all of you for just watching the video, because I do appreciate every single viewer. Now, it's worth noting that the new megaport of Chancau, which was opened in Peru a few days before, with the participation of Xi Jinping just before the G20 summit, is another key component of this infrastructure. Now, the port is situated actually in the centre of the Pacific coast of South America, right down just where the curve comes in. Now, the objective is to become the continent's primary transport and communications hub, facilitating trade and connectivity between countries in the region and Asia, particularly with China. Now, the port was actually constructed with the financial backing of China as part of its Belt and Road Initiative, and its utilisation will reduce the transit time of goods from Latin American countries to China by 15 to 25 days. And that's because normally goods from Brazil are transported to China via its Atlantic coast ports and then through the Panama Canal. With this new port in Peru, they can be conveyed by rail to the Pacific coast, where they can be transported to Chancau directly to China. So they just chuck them on the containers, on the trains, unload them at Chancau, and off they go to straight across the Pacific. Nice and easy. No problems with the Panama Canal, etc. Now, the rationale behind the Belt and Road Initiative is China continues to champion economic globalization that benefits everybody, and that's what Xi Jinping has always been for. I mean, China has always been the principal beneficiary of this globalism and this form of global, and it's actually helped many countries in a way that wasn't expected. I mean, from a financial perspective, the US was the main beneficiary, and it sought to impose its own rules of the game on China and Beijing, and that's what it still does. It's like what it does with sanctions. Now, as part of its long-term strategy, China's building the transport infrastructure that will facilitate the delivery of Chinese goods to key markets and the return delivery of raw materials from other sources back to China. And that's all part of the Belt and Road Initiative, which is designed to bolster China's position as a global economic power, but also benefit those who are part of the Belt and Road Initiative. I mean, back in 2013, when China announced the Belt and Road, its major markets were the United States and Europe, but since then, Chinese companies have invested considerable amounts of money in port infrastructure in Europe, but other transit countries, including the port of Gwadar in Pakistan. And with regards to trade with the United States, the maritime logistics infrastructure was already established, but there's political risks associated with restricting Chinese companies' access to the American market. I mean, the first indication of the potential issues was 2012 when US imposed sanctions on the Chinese communications companies Huawei and ZTE, or Huawei, I can never pronounce that one. I mean, the first significant conflict between the United States and China started with Donald Trump when he became president in 2016. I mean, he seems to blame all of the US's problems on China. Although if it's not Wall Street and the various countries. I mean, let's look at Apple. It doesn't actually manufacture anything in the USA, although it's an American company. And Biden's not been much better with his sanctions on China's microelectronics industry and mobilization of Europe's economic resources in a standoff with Beijing. Now, with Donald Trump looking to impose tariffs of 60% on China, that's going to significantly reduce, I would think, Chinese trade with the US, and that will have a negative impact on the Chinese economy. However, given those developments, China's already exploring alternative markets to offset its potential losses. Russia is now a great market for cars since the Europeans pulled out. The Chinese cars have taken over. Now, from Beijing's perspective, South America represents a highly promising region. I mean, there's been an increase in Chinese investment in Latin America, accompanied by the corresponding rise in bilateral trade. I mean, for example, the expansion of Chinese exports is always accompanied by a rise in imports. From mineral resources such as copper and lithium, agricultural products, where the transit time's a significant factor. I mean, China, for example, accounts for 31% of Brazil's exports compared to just 11% that the US takes. For Peruvian exports, the figures are similar. China gets 36% and the US is 14%. In Bolivia's exports, China is the third largest market, with 11% of its exports behind Brazil, which is 14%, and India is 12%. BRICS members, you see. Now, for context, the US share is only 2.3%. On the other side of the coin, the United States accounts for 84% of Mexican exports, and in light of the increasingly assertive stance that the US is taking, where it's going to contain China, Beijing really has to look at the possibility of the global market fracturing into distinct macro regions, which is where the BRICS comes in. I mean, this potential scenario, China's aiming to look at a list of countries that align itself with its interest and fall within its zone of influence. They want to trade with China and are happy to do so. I mean, China's seeking to establish relations with the centres of other macro regions that don't oppose it. I mean, Russia and Central Asia, Brazil and northern Latin America, plus sub-Saharan Africa. That's why it's developing ports and railways in Latin America. The infrastructure will enable China to deliver goods to the most remote regions in the world with great quantities and great speed. Plus, the significance is the ability to import critical raw materials from those regions, be it lumber, lithium, and all copper, and all the other things that are essential for the modern world. Now, there is a potential scenario for China, which was going to be the escalation of the confrontation with the United States. Now, one way the United States could block China's sea routes to the Pacific. I mean, that's not with the realms of possibility that it may instigate such a scenario where the United States will seek to establish a sanitary corridor of satellite countries, as in South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, it's its usual vassals in the Philippines, around the coast of China to try and block as much of its trade going out. So that case, that obstacles for Chinese maritime, then the probability is they could be seen as being able to use different routes, and they would be like what Russia has done, which is just use different routes and avoiding things like the English Channel. I mean, the alternative route to the Indian Ocean is via Pakistan and the Pakistani port of Gwadar, which has been developed by the Chinese. And that's owned by the Chinese Overseas Port Holdings. Now, these are all things that can be done. I mean, despite influence on Karachi, the Americans have been known to periodically instigate instability. I mean, they overthrew Imran Khan, whose policies was working with Russia and China as opposed to the US, so they got rid of him. So Russia's always an alternative, and given the exploring the development of alternative routes, using North Korea and Russia and the Northern Sea route, they could basically start moving stuff around the Sea of Japan and get around it. I don't think that's actually going to happen, but it's something that would then happen. And the Northern Sea route across the Arctic into Europe is another one. I mean, in the Cold War too, might happen, but it's looking less likely as the West sees defeat in what's happening in Eastern Europe. And we've got rail transportation via Russia and Kazakhstan and Mongolia, and that's reached almost 200 million tons. So transportation through ports, railways, etc., landmass, the Chinese and the BRICS will continue, and that's all with the aim of making sure that the logistics happen. Okay. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe and share. And if you're feeling generous, click on the thanks button. See you all again soon. Thank you.